Welcome to the first episode of my film reviews for the month of October. Every week we'll be looking at a new horror movie up until October 27th. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and get ready to get into the spooky mood, because today we'll be looking at one of my favorite horror classics, Frankenstein. The Universal Monster movies are no doubt one of my favorite franchises to exist. I don't consider any of their films horror, they're more of supernatural thrillers. They aren't scary, but they're so charming to watch. These are a good start for anyone that doesn't like horror, but is in a spooky mood. One of my favorite commercials of all time are the VHS promos for the Universal Studios Monster Classic Collections that were released in the 90s.
Welcome. MCA Universal Home Video announces the Universal Studios Monsters Classic Collection. These are the titles monster fans have been waiting to sink their teeth into. Now, at the spectacular price of $14.98 each, suggested retail.
The old black and white film footage, along with the narration and the spooky music, gets me pumped up. I love these promos. It makes me wish I could still go to the store and buy the VHS. Look at the artwork, it's amazing. The movie can suck, but it won't matter because the VHS cover is badass. My new goal in life is to collect as many of these and showcase them on a shelf. Okay, I'm getting out of topic here, but it's difficult containing my excitement when it comes to this. The 1931 film Frankenstein stars Colin Clive, Boris Karloff, and is directed by James Whale. It's the classic story of what happens when one man plays God and creates life from dead body parts. The opening shot has Edward Van Sloan warning the audience of the horrifying movie, a great way to open up such a classic film. You might remember this being parodied in The Simpsons' Treehouse of Horror 5.
Well, I must warn you all that this year's Halloween show is very, very scary.
Running at 70 minutes, this film doesn't waste time and jumps straight into a grave robbery scene. The gloomy atmosphere with the tombstones set up such a nice tone to the movie. The black and white film, the beautiful sets, and the costume design all work together perfectly to deliver a classic story of what happens when Frankenstein plays God. Colin Clive plays Dr. Henry Frankenstein. His performance here is outstanding and delivers one of the most famous and bone-chilling quotes in film history.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! In the name of God, now I know what it feels like to be God.
There's a scene where he delivers a very passionate monologue to Dr. Waldman and describes how all he wants to do is discover new things for science, but that means people will think of him as crazy. It makes you sympathize for him and understand why he created the monster in the first place. Speaking of the monster, in his most iconic role, Boris Karloff plays Frankenstein's monster. They don't reveal his face as soon as they can. The film takes its time and builds up to this dramatic, kind of awkward moment. Why is the monster walking backwards? How do you open the door? It doesn't matter. Look how good he looks. Makeup legend Jack Pierce created what we know as the monster. This rendition of him is seen everywhere. How come you never see the monster from the Edison film in the Halloween stores? I'd wear that. Anyways, you'd expect the monster to be scary and menacing. Well, he is, but if anything, you feel more sympathetic for him. He doesn't know what he's doing. Fritz is just being an asshole and waving fire in his face. Of course he's gonna kill him. Everyone is out for the monster. The only person that accepts him is the little girl, and he kills her. Damn. Why can't it be like the Monster Squad? I want the monster to be my friend. One of my favorite scenes is when we hear Fritz getting killed after he was antagonizing the monster with a fire.
What's that? What's that?
The absence of music and Fritz's horrifying scream makes this scene real eerie. I should say that this film does not follow the book that well. The sequel, Bride of Frankenstein, stays a little closer to the novel by having the monster demand the bride to accompany him. Plus he talks.
Bride.
This is one of the most important films ever created. This film was greenlit by Universal Studios following the success of the 1931 film Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi. Frankenstein launched the monster movie franchise. It stood the test of time and has been parodied countless times in films, television, and other media platforms. It's made a lasting impact on pop culture along with the rest of the Universal Monster family. The science lab from the film is what we all think of when we picture a mad scientist. After 86 years, the film still holds up. From its gorgeous sets to Karloff's beautiful performance underneath all the pounds of makeup, this is still one of my favorite monster movies of all time, which is why I'm gonna give this film 10 out of 10 Spooky Karloffs. I hope you enjoyed my review, but the video isn't over yet. Now it's time for a ghouly edition of... This is not the first screen adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. In 1910, Edison Studios created a 16-minute short film written and directed by J. Dolly. The film was lost for years until the 1950s when a film collector purchased a print of this film. He didn't realize its rarity until the mid-70s when the film was first revealed again. In 1915, another film called Life Without a Soul was made. This film had a doctor go through a similar experience Frankenstein did, but you find out in the end that he was just dreaming after reading the Mary Shelley novel. Unfortunately, the film is considered lost. Lastly is The Monster of Frankenstein. This was an Italian silent horror film that is also considered lost, with only a few production stills and promotional stuff. The book, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, had the monster look completely different than what we're all used to seeing today. In the novel, the monster is an 8-foot-tall, ugly creation with yellow skin. For the film, makeup artist Jack Pierce came up with the idea of giving the monster a flat head, bolts on its neck, droopy eyelids, etc. During production, people from the crew were worried about the 7-year-old actress that played the girl that the monster throws in the lake, because they didn't want her to be frightened at Boris Karloff's makeup. But when it was time to travel to the location, the girl ran up to the car where Karloff was sitting, grabbed his hand, and asked if she could drive with him. Karloff responded with the words, "Would you, darling?" and off they went. Speaking of the scene with the little girl, Marilyn Harris, who played Little Maria, had only taken 3 swimming lessons and had never been underwater. In the first take, she floated. Whale was so happy with the shot that he offered Harris anything she wanted to do a second take. She asked for a dozen hard-boiled eggs. Not bad to get Karloff to throw you in the lake. Bela Lugosi, who is known for playing Dracula, was offered the role of the monster, but declined it for an unconfirmed reason. The most popular rumor was that he did not want to star in a role that had no lines and required pounds of makeup on his face. He stated that he did not come for America to be a scarecrow. A 20-minute test reel was filmed with Lugosi as the monster on the Dracula sets. However, the footage has been lost since 1931. Actor Edward Van Sloan, who played Dr. Waldman in the film, appeared in the test reel alongside Lugosi and stated that Lugosi's makeup resembled a golem with a large broad wig and polished clay-like skin. The role was eventually given to Boris Karloff, which is interesting because Lugosi and Karloff would go on to be rivals, but the only reason Karloff went on to become hugely successful is because Lugosi turned down the role in the first place. After getting a very positive reception with Frankenstein, Lugosi deeply regretted turning down the role and attempted to make up for it by playing the monster in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, but was not as memorable as Boris Karloff. But to be fair, Lugosi was not offered the same role Karloff was. The monster in the script Lugosi received had him be a killing machine with no sense of human touch. In the final film, the monster just doesn't know any better and wanted to be normal. After having Lugosi reject the role, the studio was having trouble on casting the right person for the monster. Director James Whale spotted Karloff in the Universal commissary and gave him a note that offered him a screen test. Karloff jumped at the opportunity and later joked that he was offended after having the note passed to him, since the director saw him as an ugly monster while he was wearing what he thought was his most good-looking suit. Mae Clark, the actress who played Elizabeth, admitted that she was worried about being truly terrified of Karloff in the scene where he attacks her. Karloff told her he would wiggle his pinky finger off camera so that she would feel safe, and it worked. When the film was originally released, the censors found the scene with the monster throwing the girl in the pond too dark, so they cut the scene short by having the monster throw the girl in the pond, then immediately cutting away. The original scene has the monster throw the girl in the pond, being confused to why she's not floating up, and him leaving. The famous scene where Frankenstein brings the monster back to life was also changed because the censors found Frankenstein calling himself God too sacrilegious.
It's alive! In the name of God. Now I know what it feels like.
Both scenes were restored for the Universal Monster Classic Collection. According to film historian Gregory W. Mank, director James Whale was jealous of all the attention the monster was retrieving on set, so he made Karloff carry actor Colin Clive up the mountain to the mill for several takes in makeup and costume, instead of using a dummy. Because of this, Karloff had back injuries that followed him for the rest of his life. Boris Karloff's makeup weighed 48 pounds and took Jack Pierce 4 hours in the summer every day just to apply it. Plus, each of his shoes weighed 13 pounds. I feel bad for him. The original ending had Dr. Frankenstein die from the monster throwing him off the burning windmill, but Universal Studios decided to give the film the happy ending, so they added an extra scene where you see Frankenstein resting in bed. Colin Clive was in England during the reshoots, so in the final film we see him being played by future cowboy star Robert Livingston. And that concludes this month's first video. I hope you enjoyed it and feel prepared for the spookiness that is October. Stay tuned until next week, where we'll go 50 years into the future and look at one of the most famous slasher movies in history. Until next time, don't forget to please be kind. Rewind.
I just got in bed, dude. No. I swear if it's Rene again. Fuck. Okay. What is it?
Alex, I need a favor.
I was kind of in the middle of something right now.
We both know you're trying to sleep. That's irrelevant. Sleep is for the dead.
I wasn't trying to sleep. I was in the middle of doing homework for math.
Well, what's your teacher's name?
For Mr. Shumway. Yeah, Mr. Shumway.
Sure, and anyways, I need you to go on a mission for me.
What is it?
I need you to get me some kids, and I need you to bring them back to my house. Preferably with a costume on.
What?
Alex, get your ass out of your ears. I need kids. The younger, the better.
What are you trying to do?
For the first year ever, I'm going to be giving out candy for Halloween. But I live on a dead-end street, so no one ever comes here. That's where you come in. You're going to be telling people that I'll be giving out candy tonight.
Why are you giving out candy?
Why are you giving out candy? Because Alex, I'm too old to go trick-or-treating. So tonight, I'll be switching roles and be on the giving side.
Well, I'm kind of busy today.
I had a feeling you'd say that, which is why I'm prepared to offer you some kind of compensation.
What exactly are we talking about here?
I am willing to give you candy.
Candy? Well, what do you have?
I've got a 2-pound bag of Sour Patch Kids that just...
Oh, I'm in, definitely. Stop talking right there, you got me.
Seriously?
Don't worry, I'm gonna find you some kids.
Oh, okay, perfect. I'll see you later then.
Yeah, I'll be there in the evening. Are you dressing up this year, though?
Yeah, duh.
Is it as scary as your costume from last year, though?
Believe me, after people take one good look at me, they'll never see the world the same way again.
Nice, alright. I'm excited. I'll see you later.
Okay, don't forget the kids.
Yeah, definitely. I'll get those kids by tonight. Don't worry. Oh, can't forget about my Lucky Kids Hunter jacket.
Alright, world. Get ready, because tonight the buns are coming out. Ah!
Bye, Dad.
Okay, be careful. Have fun catching those kids.